Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, attorney Kim Hegwood of Your Legacy Legal Care, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and our very special guest today is Lori McGalin. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
And so I'm super excited to have you on the show today because we're going to talk about why is Medicare so complicated.
Yes.
And so, because, this is, come October when it's time to figure out what you want to do again is always very confusing for people. And so.
Absolutely.
And so, and our clients, probably yours as well, complain about how complicated it is. And why do you think that's do they make it complicated on purpose, or is it just one of those things where there's just so much information, it just feels so complicated?
I don't think it's intentional. I think there is so much information. You have A, B, C, D, and most people don't know what any of those things stand for. And so when they turn 65 or they're retiring, it is very, very overwhelming. So just to try and break that down a little bit, the first thing you're going to do when you turn 65 or when you retire, you're going to want to apply for Medicare, and you're going to apply for Medicare A and B. So A is going to be your hospitalizations or your inpatient stays like skilled nursing facilities, and your Part B is going to be doctor's visits or outpatient procedures. So that's going to be step one. So once you've applied for that, you're going to have 80% coverage for your medical care. So most people don't want to be responsible for that other 20%. Something drastic happens, you go to the hospital, 20% of a hospital bill can be very, very expensive. So then they need to bridge that gap. And I think then that's where things get more complicated because there are more options. And some people know their options better than others. But you could go for a Medicare supplement plan with a prescription drug plan, which is also known as Part D. Or you could go for a Medicare Advantage plan, which is Part C. And then if you have C, you probably don't need D. But if you want C or D, you need A and B. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I can understand how complicated it can be and overwhelming it can be for somebody who's entering that phase of life.
So I'm going to ask this in such a way that you're going to appreciate this.
Okay.
So why should seniors not consult their friends and relatives to help them decide which plan to choose?
Well, I mean, definitely, I think that most people do that. I've had plenty of clients who have come to me after being on a plan for 5 years and say, well, I joined this plan because my sister had it. Well, your sister, her needs are different than yours. Your sister probably has different doctors, different prescriptions, different lifestyle. And so every plan, there's so many plans, in Harris County alone, there's at least 100 plans in this area. And so they're all geared to fit different needs. Different companies charge differently for hospitalizations. Different companies charge differently for specialty visits, outpatient procedures. And so your neighbor's plan is not going to necessarily be the best plan for you.
And so let's talk about what's coming, because everybody's always, like what changes are coming and things like that.
Right.
So what's going to happen to Medicare in 2025 that you're now aware of?
So the Inflation Reduction Act is going to go into effect in January, which is going to significantly reduce the cost of prescriptions for seniors who very expensive medications. So next year, the cap for those medications is going to be $2,000, as opposed to this year, you could pay up $1,000 for your medications before your insurance company took over. Now, to you and to most people, that sounds like, oh my gosh, some people are paying that much. The answer is yes. I have plenty of clients who have expensive medications. You think about Eliquis, you think about Ozempic. Those are very high priced medications. And so people were hitting that $8,000 max. So next year it'll be $2,000, which is significantly going to help them, but the insurance carriers are going to eat the rest of that cost. So we're expecting, nothing has been released as far as plan information goes, but we are expecting some plans to just completely leave the market. And then we're also expecting other plans to just change their formulary. So different, or all the companies have a formulary, and there are different tier structures. So the lower the tier, so tier 1 medications are right now about $0 to $5, and your tier 5 medications could be hundreds of dollars. So to help eat that cost, we're expecting them to kind of tighten their formularies. And so what you may have been paying $0 for this year, you could have a copay for it coming next year.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my mom has to take a prescription, a non-generic prescription. So come January, her prescriptions are always off the charts. And
Yes.
so really working to maneuver. My sister's done a pretty good job of that, of different pharmacies have different costs.
Yes.
And,
so if you go to preferred pharmacy, and that varies, different insurance companies are preferred with different pharmacies. So that does matter. And then just to kind of elaborate on that, you said your mom has to pay a lot in January. So that coming next year also, they're going to be offering a payment plan so that you can spread the cost out of your medications over the entire year. So when
my mother's going to be very happy about that.
Yes, a lot of people will be. So when you go to the pharmacy, you're not going to pay anything, but your insurance company is going to bill you for those medications, and it'll be over the 12-month period.
That's helpful because she has her, her like most seniors, her income is set, so over the year. And so I know how often I tell a client to review their plans, but how often do you tell a client to review their Medicare plans?
At least every year. At the annual enrollment period is October 15th to December 7th. So anyone who's on Medicare can review their plan then. So especially Advantage plans, if you have a prescription plan, you're going to want to review your plan. It is insane to me how many clients I meet who have had the same plan for 20 plus years, and they've never looked at it. I remember meeting with a client and switching her Advantage plans, and it's literally saved her thousands of dollars a year just by switching her plan because she didn't know.
And it's surprising because, a lot of times people get on a plan and then they never mess with it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because they're like, oh, I'm on the best plan I can be. And, it changes. So, oh my God, everything changes every year. So it's always, that's what I tell clients every year. Have someone look at it, make sure it's the right thing. So good.
Absolutely. Because you may get an additional doctor this year because, you maybe had a heart problem or you had a medication added. So medications cost differently depending on what plan you're on. So you definitely want to review it if not for any other reason, especially for that.
Oh, most definitely. And so, yeah, we go through it every year just because, like I was telling you, mom has one prescription that's pretty expensive.
Right.
Because the doctor's like, nope, you can't take the generic. You have to take, you have to take the other one. So, and, but do benefits vary between insurance carriers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even they vary between insurance carriers, but they even vary within the insurance carriers. So, let's say you have a Humana plan. Humana could have 5 or 6 plans in your zip code that you could, go between. So, you have HMO plans, which are going to require referrals. You're not going to be able to go out of network for. You have PPO plans. You can go out of network for, but you have to pay a higher copay. You don't need those referrals, but the benefits on those may be lower than like the HMOs. So for instance, some of the Advantage plans have dental built into them. You may get $500 worth of dental work for one plan and $2,500 for another one. The cost of hospitalizations varies. There's some plans you go in, you pay a set rate, like $300, no matter how many days you stay. And on the other hand, you could go in and pay $300 per day for days 1 through 6. That's a huge difference. So definitely the benefits vary carrier to carrier, plan to plan.
And so what about where you live? How does that affect the cost of your Medicare, supplements and things like that? Because I know with my mom, where she lives, even if she wanted a Medicare Advantage, she couldn't have it because of where she lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do the prices differ, between, just our community and surrounding communities and, maybe across the state or the country? I mean, how do they differ, and do you know why? Because to me, that's a big question that I imagine a lot of people want to know.
So for the supplement companies, those are regulated by the state. So the price that's why they vary state to state. So if you have United Healthcare here and you wanted to move to New York and you wanted to have United Healthcare there, or you wanted to have the same type of plan, you're going to pay that New York rate, which is higher than you would pay here in Texas. Now, if you were on a plan that you got on Plan G, let's say Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, and then you moved to New York and New York does not offer Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas, you can keep your Blue Cross and Blue Shield Texas plan because they don't offer it there. But if you know you're going to move, first of all, that opens up an enrollment period for you. So you can switch your plan. But you also want to shop before you do it so that you know if you're, taking on a huge cost, you may reconsider or maybe choose a different location.
Yeah, I know. I tell clients it's way more expensive to get older on the East Coast than the West Coast. And the closer you get to the middle, it seems to be the less expensive.
Yeah.
The less expensive it is.
Right.
So walk me through just briefly, because we've got some time. So I want to really kind of flesh this out a little bit. So a client comes to see you. What do they need to do to be prepared so that your meeting is very productive?
So when a client calls me and they want me to look at their Medicare plans, so first I'm going to do a very thorough needs analysis. I need to know what doctors do you see? What prescriptions do you take? What's important to you? Do you like to go to the gym? Do you have maybe you're going to get hearing aids here pretty soon? All of those are going to be taken into consideration. And I'm contracted with many insurance companies in this area. And so I'm able to compare the prices of all of those plans and present them to the client. And of course, everybody wants to save money. We want to make sure you're getting the best priced plan, but that's also going to meet your needs. So that's what I do. I just present all the options to them. I break down the Medicare supplement versus Medicare Advantage, and we decide together which one's going to be the best one for their life.
Yeah, I'm the problem child, or will be when I reach that age, because I got a doctor at Kelsey Sebo because that's where she went to. I kind of followed her there. My other doctors are not in a particular thing, so I tend to stay with all those PPO things so I can just go to the doctors that I want and that I've been seeing that I trust.
Yes.
So, because I've never been a fan of HMOs because I don't want somebody telling me I can or cannot see a specialist, so. But I think it tends to be very difficult, for clients. And so is it important for them to bring in their prescriptions and things like that when you're looking at that as well?
If they have a list of their prescriptions and they're accurate, they don't necessarily need to bring in their medications for me. But once they send me their list and then I meet with them, I'm confirming, okay, this is what you take and it's this many milligrams and you refill it this many times, or how often do you refill it? We're going over all of those things because we want to make sure what we're getting is accurate.
Definitely. So this is fabulous, Lori. And so, there's no doubt you're very knowledgeable on what what you're doing. So that's always a good thing. But tell our listeners how they find you so that maybe if they need to have their Medicare check, they can.
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to help them. You can find me at www.honestmedicareanswers.com. You can find out all about me and the services that I provide there. You can call me 832-919-3558, or you can email me at lorimcgalin@gmail.com.
Perfect. And so all good stuff. And so, Lori, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.